Our next panel discussion is about financial inclusion and open economy. Financial inclusion becomes a key need to ensure the delivery of inclusive growth for everyone across the regions and the nations. Here we bring experts from blockchain, open finance, payments, and KYC sectors to discuss possible opportunities and challenges for the business and individuals. So first of all, I would like to welcome moderator of this panel discussion, Alex Gibb, advisor at Sumup and partner at Katalista Ventures. Alex, welcome on the stage. So how do you do, Alex, today?
Very good, very good. I think the best thing is that I've managed to get through lunch without spilling all over myself, so that's a really good positive start.
What excites you the most today, and what are you looking forward?
So we've got some great speakers. We've got a really, really big audience, and a big audience online as well. So we're looking forward to some really good questions on Slido. So we'll try and manage to bring those questions in as well. So, and we have Gibson on the screen. So
hi, Gibson.
Excellent. We'll sure to be good.
I will leave you to introduce the panel discussion speakers. Good luck and see you later.
Thanks, Camilla. Great. So let me introduce our next panelist on the screen, who I guess you can see somewhere next to me. Okay, over on the side. So Gibson Nascimento, very, very warm welcome to you. You're head of solutions and Emea at Sensedia. So thanks for joining us on the screen. And of course, sorry we don't have you in the audience or on the stage with us. Can you hear us loud and clear?
Yes, I can. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to be here, even online. Apologies for not being able to join you in person. It would be great, but hopefully I'll be able to be there in the next one. Thanks very much.
Fantastic. Very warm welcome. So next up, we have Andrius Bartminas from the blockchain world. He's the co-founder and CEO of SuperHow. So Andrius, a very warm welcome to you. Do you want to come take this table at the seat at the end?
Thank you.
Warm welcome. We have Rūta Banytė, who's deputy at FoxPay. So a very warm welcome for you, Rūta. Come on in, take a seat.
Hi, everybody.
And we also have Steve Warner, who's Chief Revenue Officer at Ondato, and he's also joining us here today in person. Warm welcome, Steve. Cheers. So this is the start of the session. We've got a lot of really exciting words and buzzwords and names to start off with. So open finance, open economy, digital transformation, financial inclusion. Do you all know what all of this means? Is this, yeah, I see some heads nodding there. That's good. It's good to get in there on the back. Well, here we have specialists from a bunch of different worlds, from the KYC world, from the payments world, from the blockchain world, and Gibson, you too, from multiple different worlds with Sensedia.
Yeah.
Let's find out what it's all about, but let's have a quick introduction first and find out what everyone is actually doing and who you're working with. So, Steve, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you. Steve Warner, I'm the CRO of Ondato. You may have seen the brand around where we're sort of co-sponsoring the event today. But we're really, I guess, a business that's grown massively in the last 12 months, somewhat due to the situation with the pandemic, in that we offer a global platform for automating KYC, AML and compliance. So we're working with a vast range of different organizations trying to simplify that process and help in terms of financial inclusion, help businesses and individuals make the better use of technology and, of course, financial services itself.
Super. So I think that sets the scene quite nicely in terms of the range of services you're providing there. Rūta, what about you?
Thanks, Alex. Hello, everybody. So my name is Rūta. I'm from FoxPay. I'm a deputy here, and we're an electronic money institution. So basically, we're doing a bunch of things in payments field. I don't know what else to mention, but this topic, financial inclusion, is really hitting on us these days. So I hope I will give you some relevant information on that.
Thanks, Rūta. Great to have you here. Andrius, what about you? Can you tell us a little bit more about SuperHow?
Yeah, thank you for having me here. My name is Andrius. I'm a CEO and co-founder of SuperHow. SuperHow is a private blockchain research and innovation lab. So we are building lots of magic in our company, decentralized finances, centralized, decentralized finances, central bank digital currencies, blockchain infrastructures, and more. Thank you.
Super. And Gibson, over to you. Can you tell us a little bit more about Sensedia?
Sure, absolutely. So head of solutions based in Ireland. Sensedia, it's all about what we call modern integration platform. So we provide our customers with ways to integrate their internal applications, but also to connect the world with APIs, which is another buzzword that you are among the many ones that you mentioned there, Alex. It's the one that it's trending at the moment because it's what being the glue to connect all of these interesting ecosystems from banks to fintechs and for other industries as well. So we basically enable our customers to be more connected.
Okay, there's a little bit of an echo on the sound. If we could just have a slightly better sound, please, from Gibson, it would be really helpful for us as well. But if some of you managed to get at some of what he was saying, then great, and hopefully it'll be a little bit clearer as we move forward. So let's jump into the whole question of open economy. What does it actually mean? I think it probably means different things to all of you in your different worlds, but maybe we can start off with a sort of a more basic definition in your world. So Andrius, maybe from you in the blockchain space, what is open economy?
Yeah, so for the blockchain is a global. So basically it's a global infrastructure, decentralized infrastructure. For blockchain, open economy is about the decentralized. So decentralized finances, decentralized identities, decentralized everything. Of course, we have lots of interesting synergies with centralized services. So we had this decentralized finances, which was growing last year. And now we are facing a new innovation, which is centralized, decentralized finances, meaning that, for example, KYC or identification or some regulated services is provided by centralized entity who has license, and then having that benefit of blockchain infrastructure, harnessing the financial services as a decentralized business model. So it's quite interesting.
When you say if it's decentralized finance or it's certified by a different partner, doesn't that just mean the same thing, that then there's centralization in a different way?
Yeah, so basically when we are saying about decentralized finances, it means that financial instruments, financial services are decentralized, and that process is basically on a blockchain. So it means that there is no centralized entity who is providing that service. This is a protocol who is providing the service. And that created a lot of interesting products like flash loans, like collateral as a cryptocurrency, and getting the stable coins. The stable coins itself, so it is a part of the decentralized finances, and also decentralized exchanges, which is basically meaning that you can exchange the value on the blockchain, on the protocol itself, rather than going to some third party basically and taking care of that exchange between the two parties. You can do it on chain. You can even provide the liquidity of that exchange, and that is quite interesting.
Super. And Steve, you said at the start that obviously Ondato has benefited a lot from the rise in remote identification. Yep. Probably everyone in the room. Maybe let's just see a quick show of hands. Hands up if you have in the last month used a digital tool for identification or signing. Absolutely, like 99%. That's a pretty big change, right, from 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's a good proposition. But I think at the heart of it for me, and that's how I got interested in it, because I had to actually leverage that itself when applying for a loan myself. It made me sort of start to think, especially when you think about financial inclusion. I mean, what it means for us is kind of a fair and open market for everybody, which is what we're all kind of trying to achieve. I mean, in the UK, for example, right now there are people who don't have the financial means that are actually there's almost higher charges for people that can least afford it. So clearly that's an unfair and uneven playing field. So I think we call it the poverty tax in the UK, where if you don't have the right level of financial stability, you actually pay more for the services that you use, and clearly that isn't that isn't right, and that's something I think we're all trying to do something about, and Ondato is certainly part of that as well.
Super. And Rūta, you know, Steve talks there about the poverty tax and these obstacles that are there for people to get free or fair financial services. You know, how do you see this? How does this look like what does this look like in Lithuania?
Well, I could just mention quickly that at FoxPay we have several products where we allow cash top-ups. So everything is very simple. We allow to put your cash money into your digital account. And for example, last year we have accepted 7 million euros cash payments, which is a bit less than 10% of our annual turnover. So what happens next? Then, you know, people who are basically living in remote or rural areas, people who has lower financial literacy, immigrants, and so on, in general, they have one thing in common: they are operating cash. And when it comes to the technologies, then a lot of issues are starting and happening, and we have really no difficult task to help them to achieve that fair, transparent, and affordable financial services.
And that really resonates with me, just thinking about my own sort of parents and grandparents in other countries, and even, you know, them still wanting to take checks to the bank, to cash checks and write checks.
It's a lot about habits, the way your life was going on. And what I'm also noticing that digital expansion or digital payments does not guarantee financial inclusion itself. Absolutely, because we are living in a really fast-paced industry. The whole finance and startups, fintechs. But then you look back to your customer, and he's not adopting those technologies so fast. So that is where probably we are meeting that problem.
Super. And Gibson, maybe we'll try with you again and see if the sound is better now for us in the audience.
Is it better now?
Yes, that's better already. Thank you. That's great.
Good, no problem.
So maybe you could just reflect a little bit on what open economy means for you, open finance.
Sure, absolutely. We've been talking a lot about especially open finance at the moment because of the open banking boom that happened a couple of years ago. And for us at Sensedia, open finance, open economy, it's about connecting and being able to bring, or actually to create a wider ecosystem that goes beyond banks providing their services or products to the public. It's about being able to connect those services to fintechs, and then we go even further. It's actually being able to connect a wider ecosystem, bringing the retail together, bringing utilities as well, and offering people more affordable, or even, it's not only about the affordability, but things that make more sense to day-to-day life that they have, that are more like matching with their lifestyle. So you're able to understand behaviors and then provide your consumers a better solution, a better, let's say, product that fit them just the way that they are looking for. And at Sensedia, what we've been doing is basically, like I said in my introduction, through APIs and through a more open economy, we've been helping our customers to be able to decentralize these products and services and being able to deliver those to the end consumers. And from an open inclusion, I also like to say that it's not only about the end consumer, but it's also about giving the small banks or the small companies that are perhaps struggling to get into the ecosystem an opportunity to be more connected, to get more information from the bigger banks, to then being able to deliver more and more services and more meaningful services to their consumers as well. Because you may think about a credit union that doesn't have much reach in terms of customer base, but if they manage to get more information, or if they manage to get more products that they can, with a bank or with a fintech, incorporate and then start selling even more or offering more affordable rates for their customers, you're making the ecosystem much bigger and being able to reach even more people as well.
So Gibson, let me sort of challenge that a little bit by saying, is this real, or is this just us kind of sitting in our digital bubble, and that this is actually just a utopia that we're all sort of running around in circles with?
It's a good challenge. It's a good challenge, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like your question. So what we are trying to do, at least, or what we are seeing, it's having some of our customers that are managing to sell their products through fintechs, especially when it comes to banks that would do lending or forex. So they're moving away from, I'm the only nice guy selling this nice product to you, but what if you, my partner, also delivers my product, So, but it's still, I agree with what you're saying. It's a bit of not a bit, it's a big challenge, because I do see that, especially the big banks, that they've been running this business for ages, There is some resistance there, but if you think from the more, or the less traditional banks, the more digital banks, they've been challenging this and bringing this, or changing the game a little bit,
Yeah. And then, Andrius, let me throw the same question at you. You're in an even kind of more niche space. Again, is this just all utopia that we're tricking ourselves over?
I think it's not utopia. It's of course everything that we are talking is digital, so it creates this digital exclusion as well. So it means that you need to be digital, apart from what Rūta is doing with FoxPay, basically providing the cash onboarding on a digital and going back. But yeah, especially in the blockchain, it is everything about the technology, and even I would say level up, because all those DeFi products, all those innovative solutions are not user friendly, and it creates even more like exclusion. Like you have to have like decentralized mindset. You have to be tech savvy to use those, and that technology doesn't help like right on. But in every innovation, there's maturity and adoption required. So simplifying things. For example, how many of you are using digital signatures? So many of us are doing so. Like 2-3 years ago, I think it would be like 50% most. And today it's a part of our life because of how it is easy to use. And everything is about easy to use. And if it is easier to use than just, some paper checks or something like that, this is always a way to go. And digital, and that knowledge, and so it is a temporally, because, our children are already like digital acknowledged, and they are capable even more than us sometimes. So it is just a matter of time. And this bubble is just, it's not a bubble. It's the world, expanding world, and taking a place in the most of the countries. And
but is it really just a matter of time? I mean, we talked about skills. Well, we could talk about skill sets. Rūta's talked about people in, say, rural Lithuania who don't have access to banking services. Traditionally, what else do we need to do then to change behavior, rather than just waiting for this to happen and hoping that it happens?
You need a value proposition, like always. So it's a value that you're getting. For example, more cheaper, easier to use, more beneficial to yourself, not to government, not to to make just some benefit for a government. For example, I think the best approach was when Lithuania did the tax declaration, and you could get a benefit by declaring your taxes. So it was like incentive to do that.
Yep.
With everything, it's the same. You need incentive to incentivize people to do things, and that changes how you're moving in there.
May I add shortly? I think education is also a key point, and there is no looking what big banks are doing at the moment. For example, Swedbank with their Mokonomika, when they are now starting to educate children and investing in that, and I think it's really amazing job what those guys are doing, and we have to start from the beginning, start with children actually, who might grow up and have quite good and proper financial literacy.
I mean, totally agree with you on that one. I think, investing in financial literacy is a really important step forward.
Absolutely.
And then if we go back to what Andrius was saying in terms of actually changing behavior through value proposition, maybe you could just reflect on that with FoxPay. How are you doing that with customers?
Yeah, well, first of all, what we're noticing, people with low financial literacy, they have a lack of trust in general. So if that could be one word, so lack of trust. And then you can divide that into very, different topics. Lack of trust in financial institution because they do have a lot of beliefs, biases, lack of trust in technologies, they don't know how to use it, or for example, they don't have specific gadgets, language barriers, and the list can be like really long. Or also it might be added one like you are very little understanding about financial products and how does it work. Do my expectations meet the reality? So education is probably a key point, and we're doing a lot, especially with our customer service, like trainings, explanations, alternatives. If you are not ready to perform that digital identification on a smartphone, please have a link, and so on and so on. So, yeah.
Really good examples, and again, I think you've probably nailed a big part of the heart of this discussion, which comes down to trust, right, in all of these services. And Steve, what about Ondato? I mean, how does that look for you in terms of behavioral change, and how much of this is the companies paying versus the end customer paying? Do they have to use you? How does it work, maybe for the audience?
Well, as we know, I mean, absolutely agree with what's been said. I mean, first of all, it's about the technology. I think people adopting the technology, it's out there. And I think also corporations, banks, I mean, fintechs are, this is the value of what we're talking about today, I guess, is that organizations like the ones here and ourselves are actually driving the agenda a little bit with some of the legacy providers, some of the larger banks, the neo-banks are forcing that. So some of it's also about competition as well. At the end of the day, it is about banks and other financial services companies understanding that things like we do, like compliance, is something that businesses have to follow, and there needs to be an easier way to do it for the general population. If that then benefits everybody else, then that's great. I mean, we've seen it in underserved markets and in developing markets that mobile technology is often the answer, whether that's open banking, faster payments, whatever it might be. Adding on a layer like we've been doing here in terms of making the proposition more open, more fair, and for ourselves offering sort of the know your customer, kind of know your business, reducing that pain as well. All of those things are almost a layer which lead to this entire kind of solution that people now have. But ultimately for the real big businesses that need to adopt this, is also about being competitive. Ultimately it is a business.
And the value proposition that's there actually
Exactly.
offering to the person.
Yeah.
So Gibson, let's go back over to you and check. Do you have it? You see it the same way on the trust factor? You obviously provide a lot of highly advanced solutions for your customers. Is it really the trust issue that you're solving there? What is it?
Yeah, part of it is for sure the trusting element of the whole technology. And just to come back on some of the points before I talk about this, I think that the value proposition in education, the incentive, there's a lot, we always think about, our end consumers, but there's a lot of value proposition when it comes to the partnership ecosystem as well, that, you need to sell to your partners, that connecting to you to sell your product or to sell your service, to being able to reach even more consumers, it's something that they can do, and the benefits that they will have by doing that as well. And that points to the trust element, especially when it comes to the end consumer, right? So we're talking about poverty, about elderly people as well, that have been going to the branch to, sign a check, pay something there. For those people, letting them now know that they can use a mobile phone to pay a bill or to provide information, to share data that they would never do before, because they've been hearing, okay, we are a bank, you can trust us, and then we'll keep all your information, don't worry. And now the same bank come to them and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be sharing your information with this new partner here. That's quite contradictory. And I think that the whole education bit comes to explain that behind the scenes, there's a lot of trust. So all the connections, talking about technology right now, so it's all encrypted. Your information won't be sent. I know there are several leaks here and there, but what we've been doing is guaranteeing that the connections end to end from the click on the mobile phone to the information that reaches the back end of the bank or the fintech to be processed, it's all fully secure, that the channels are secure, that the information is being kept in a secure way as well. So there's a lot of education there as well to make sure that people do understand that they can do this and that their information will be safe. And yeah, we've been helping our customers with, you know, end to end from the moment that they are, the end consumer is doing the authentication, that the information is secure, then that it's transmitted through all the channels, because, you know, we may be sharing data with a partner here, storing some data there as well, and making another API call to get some additional information. And then when it reaches the final destination, it's stored securely as well. So end to end, we've been helping our customers to design this journey in a very secure fashion. And that is a big challenge, I'd say. It's about educating people, and not only the consumer, but the whole ecosystem as well, that this can be done and has to be done in a secure fashion.
And I think that's the key. One of the key things that I take away from what you've just said there is this: how do we get this snowball effect to make behavioral change by building sort of trust within the ecosystem, and then partnering with all of these companies that are then also affecting the end users all around. And I think that really brings it back nicely to what everyone else has been saying with the behavioral change. And thank you as well. That was the first question was, you know, how else can we speed up the whole process of behavioral change and encourage new solutions, the adoption of new solutions. Yep. Another question's come in, which is, where does the responsibility lie? You know, how much of this lies in the private sector? How much of this is in business? With government? How much with schools? So where does this, you know, whole shift in towards the open economy, where does the responsibility lie? Anyone want to take this?
I think all of these companies here represented are solving a business problem. It's then how does that get directed in the right way? And clearly for some of these initiatives, you do need government to kind of take more of an interest. And as I said before, I think from a business opportunity perspective, there are massive opportunities for organizations out there just understanding, not just in emerging markets, but if you look at the UK or the US or wherever it might be, there are huge swathes of people that are underbanked, or not seeking the advantage, or not having all the advantages, or perhaps there's an educational issue. So it does really make sense to me that fintechs like us use our, if you like, IP to come up with solutions to these kind of really difficult problems. Very often they're regulations and compliance issues that need solving. It's our job to do that. In most cases we've done that, I think, and it's then a case of how do we then leverage that further. And I think some of that is obviously through partnerships, as we've heard, but then starting to think about how do we influence the agendas. As I said before, they are business very often, but I think governments have a role to play as well.
Okay, so both
yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I can catch up on that. Me coming from the blockchain, so everything is, you know, open, decentralized. It's basically you can do whatever you want, and that responsibility is basically in the guys like us who are creating that technology. Because basically, instead of the business of intermediaries, the protocol is that who serves the service. And that is a great responsibility, actually, and liability for developers to not to leave the mistakes, not to leave the things behind that could be misused or did something wrong. And basically, all those things, stolen assets, everything happens because of the mistakes that developers do, and that comes with a cost. Because of this decentralized infrastructure, you cannot roll back. You cannot, cover those mistakes because everything is open. Everything is, you cannot, it is decentralized. And the trust itself, I think, in our field, lots of businesses that we are consulting, lots of financial institutions and payment institutions are a little bit afraid of the blockchain because it is like when we are having that issue of trust, the blockchain they see it as a competitor because of how the trust is solved with the infrastructure. So it is called trust infrastructure or just trustless infrastructure. But I think it's a wrong understanding. It's more of the enabler. So you can do much more with that infrastructure. You can do your process that you have very complex, very secure process that you have centralized. You can basically build it on decentralized and put that liability on the infrastructure itself, that responsibility. Only one key ingredient is a developer's and sense of security and measures that you're using to do that.
Okay, and Rūta, before I come to you, just to check, Andrius, one of the questions come in regarding gamification and to what extent is gamification, perhaps in your space, an important driver of behavioral change?
So gamification, the blockchain is all about gamification. So one of the components of the blockchain itself is gamification. So how you participate, how you get rewarded, everything is about that. The same is about the ecosystem. It is basically economies of ecosystems, the blockchains. And going deeper, I think, with DeFi and complexity of instruments, of services, there's this new, fundamentally new thing, which is gamified finances, GameFi, or play-to-earn things, which are basically, for example, GameFi is in a gamification manner to solve those usability issues. For example, when you're providing the liquidity for decentralized exchange, which is sometimes very awkward, very difficult to understand for a random user, it is better, to build a game on top of that as a farmland, for example, where you are farming, where you are seeding the crops and then harvesting. And it looks like a game, but actually you're doing financial services. You're participating, you're earning money. So this big concept, it's coming. It's like, I think, last year's, the end of the last year's, the biggest discussed topics around the blockchain and crypto field. And I think this year it will be the most discussed topic also because of how it solves the problems.
So I hear that as a pretty confident yes.
Yep.
Fantastic, fantastic. Rūta, anything more to add? I know you talked already about, responsibilities, and you talked already about financial literacy, but anything else?
Yeah,
in that space?
if just something shortly to add. So in general, we live in that, regulatory market. So first of all, we have responsibility to stay compliant, follow the rules and processes, and then there is a customer who is in between, trying to buy services under those regulations. So yeah, we are responsible. We are the ones who are, facilitating the way it looks from the customer side.
Super. That's a powerful statement. Powerful statement
Thank
at that level as well. And Gibson, let's think about, you've been talking about partnerships within the whole ecosystem. I imagine you've probably got quite a few governments that are playing in there, maybe even some schools. Could you give us any sort of concrete examples of who else is having this role in behavioral change?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, we are talking to a university in Spain, and their idea is to actually change the way that they are connecting to students and other universities as well. Mainly because normally they are on top of the innovation, and what they want to do is to be more attractive. They want to bring students to to the university, not only because it's a top level university, but because they are also innovating. They provide different ways for students to connect, to access the library information system, or for other institutions to connect to them to understand, okay, what are the programs that we have that we can offer you, how we can work together. That is one. But we've been also seeing governments, we were talking about the responsibility, right? So pushing some agendas, and I do believe that the incentive factor, it's something that, lies both on government as well as on the private sector fintechs. But we've been seeing, for instance, in Brazil, recently it was released the instant payment facility that changed a lot the day-to-day life of people, because you don't really need to carry cash with you anymore. You can just give me your mobile number, I'll send you money right now. We help some of our customers to build those, those infrastructure components to support those kind of payment facilitators as well. So we've been seeing a lot happening, and I do believe there is much more to happen in the next couple of years, at least, if no longer.
So that sounds very much like there's interplay from both sides, and that you're really enabling this whole process and having that positive impact and able to push that forward.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay. Super. Let's move on then. I was just thinking we've touched financial inclusion, quite a lot here in all of this, and I was just thinking I was financially excluded 11 years ago when I tried to buy a Bitcoin at $1, I think it was at the time. And my poor technical skills meant that I was actually excluded. I imagine that probably most of us here are not excluded in the typical sense from financial services. But would you care to share any examples of people who you've really helped to become empowered through your financial services or through your area? Any stories that anyone would like to share? Who's first?
Well, I can, not necessarily Ondato related, but I mean, I think I've been involved in some quite big projects. There was one in Kenya in particular where we looked at this whole area of social financial exclusion in particular, because I think there are some big numbers there, and the company I was working for at the time, we did that actually to help kind of implement a whole new open banking and instant payment system across 29 different banks in that particular country. The numbers were absolutely huge in terms of the take-up, mobile phone technology. It meant that people in markets could buy goods very easily. They could receive money very easily. And for me, it was a real eye-opener. The service won a number of awards in Europe, actually. And it just started to make us realize the scale of this, because it was many, many millions of people that were actually impacted by this one change of technology, and the foresight of the Kenyan Bankers Association decided to commit to this technology. That has made a huge difference. And the shame of it is that there are many other countries that could equally do something very similar that are not doing it. And I think that was driven by the association. It was a political decision as well. And I think the scale of it kind of proved the point to many other countries in Africa of what was possible. It's not an African problem, as I say, though, because there's a similar problem in the UK, similar problem in the US. The thing is, it's not as widely known or visible. It's probably a similar problem here as well, but it's just not talked about.
Absolutely. No, good examples. And Rūta, what about you?
Well, I cannot think now about some particular example, but I think the whole idea of fintechs and startups is to serve marginalized groups. They are created because of something does not exist yet, or something could be better. So there are a lot of the types of fintechs who are serving those marginalized groups, like those, I think they're called like game changers, the amplifiers, the snipers, and there's like a list of a bunch of them. And a lot of interesting technologies are appearing. But what I'm noticing, like really, which maybe is called like an upcoming trend, but also probably happening already, is a collaboration trend. When startups and fintechs are joining the forces, I have one part of the technology, you have another one, or you have the know-how, let's join the forces and let's become better together. So this is also an impressive trend that is happening now.
And I guess that links clearly to what Steve was saying about the whole, partnerships that Ondato's working with. The same with Gibson, talking about his wider ecosystem. Andrius, what are your thoughts on the space?
Yeah, so everything decentralized that we're building is financially included. So basically, everyone can use that. But the nearest to I think what we have experience with was the CBDC infrastructure that we built in the experimental project in European Central Bank. one of the topics was basically inclusion and easy to use and interconnected infrastructures, interoperability between different central banks in the European Union. And we quite successfully proved that basically you can interact on a blockchain, like person being in France and person being in Lithuania, basically doing transaction not through the bank infrastructure, not through the intermediaries infrastructure, not settlement clearing and lots of those, intermediaries as infrastructure, but basically on a blockchain peer-to-peer, which means that you can basically participate in economy without any intermediate between you and another person, except from the blockchain as this infrastructure that grants that.
And then, as I gave the example, my technical incompetence meant that I couldn't, open a Mangok's wallet 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's easier now. It's easier to buy, to participate. It is still a challenge because of how financial market sees the cryptocurrencies, and most of the banks are not keen, to work with that. But I think the market is changing also because of the maturity and the players that are coming to the market. Because, for example, Goldman Sachs are already here. They are participating heavily in the DeFi market. They are looking forward to see into NFTs and what is that. So there are institutional players who are already here, and they are changing the game. So I like that, sentence that Marius Jurgilas said some months ago. So if you're not at the table, it means you're on the menu. So it is like that, and everything is catching up with technology.
So I was just about to give the example of my grandma, right? So at 95, she's not exactly the kind of person who could easily get on and buy her Bitcoin. Yeah. But so maybe she's on the menu, but maybe that's not the right way to go with this. But I think that also brings the topic around security and privacy. And thinking about, for some groups who need that help and support to get on and to participate in the whole financial ecosystem. I guess the final question as we get towards wrapping up is really, what is privacy and security in the coming years, and how important are these factors? So Gibson, maybe we start off with you on this.
Yeah, I think we touched just a bit about this when we were talking about the whole education bit, explaining that, there is security, that there is, consent management, which is something very important when it comes to this whole open banking and open finance world. Privacy, meaning that, your information, it's kept securely, but also that there's something very important when it comes to the whole management of the consent, right? Which is you, as the end consumer, you're entitled to say, I only want my information to be used for this mean and nothing else. And at any moment in time, you can just say, hey, actually, I don't want this to be used anymore. Can you please stop sharing my data? So I think that there is a bit of education there, as we were discussing, explaining and delivering this message to the end consumers. And also the players of the ecosystem that we were just discussing, they need to make sure that the information is kept securely, that the privacy it's guaranteed as well. And we were just talking about technology, and I think that the technology enables all of this, providing the ways for the consumers to select what are the transaction, the types of transactions that they want, or let's say the process that they want to participate, but also providing them means, ways to simply say, yeah, I made my transactions, I'm happy with it, and I want to stop getting my data shared with your ecosystem or with you. I think there's a lot of education that has to be done, and the technology needs to be, we've been seeing a lot of technologies being working, and Steve can definitely talk about QIC much better than I do, but it's a huge element into this whole privacy and security world.
So Gibson, I hear that, for you, you're confident and positive that the coming years we're going to be more secure and more private in our interactions in the financial world.
I do believe. I think that we are doing great work now.
Yep.
It has to be even better, especially for the end consumers to understand what we're doing. And I'm positive that soon we'll be in a position where, the whole combination of education, incentives, government, private sector, all coming together, we will get to a more mature moment of this journey, I would say.
Super, thanks for your input.
No problem.
What about here on the stage? Agree, disagree? How does that look?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think also, just by the very nature of the services we offer, you're generating that trust. I mean, people are using their phones, they're used to using mobile phone technology anyway. Partly it's education, but partly, actually when you look at a proposition, you understand that you're automating a service that's compliance or it's connected with anti-money laundering. So, you should, by way of the nature of using the solution, understanding what it's doing, generate that level of trust, and it's easy to use as well. So it's a sort of a win-win. And as I've said a couple of times, I think if it's good for the business and it's good for people, then it should be good for the business as well. And then you have this kind of circle that's then squared, if you like.
Okay. And Rūta, from you?
Yeah, of course, absolutely agree with Gibson, and I believe there is still many things to do to create a meaningful financial inclusion, and we are the ones who are now working in this industry, creating those technologies, implementing those technologies. So yeah, I think we have to take responsibility and take the actions, do the actions.
Clear message as well. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, so when we're talking about security, so the blockchain is the most secure infrastructure as it could be technically today because of how it uses the hardcore cryptography and private public key infrastructure, the same as we use in signing, electronic signatures and digital identities today in the government. But I think the big innovation that is coming, decentralized digital identities, which is a hard topic around the industry, is how to provide information without disclosing that information. So for example, if you need to ensure that this person is 18 years, so you don't need to provide the date, you just need to answer yes or no. And that is something that has to be worked on. Of course, I fully agree with education. Everybody needs to understand the privacy. Everybody needs to understand the security and how it relates, because I think most of the users in a digital world, they don't understand this. They don't understand the value, and they just don't understand that, for example, sharing everything online is meaning that it will never be off, that you've shared and that's it. So that is a big issue, and we have to, work ourselves on that privacy and understanding what it is.
So I guess you've even given us the topic for the next discussion, which can be around digital identity and some of these factors as well. And people are nodding in the audience, so it sounds like we've got a good heads up for that as well. Okay, we're running towards the end of the time of the panel for us. We've also got a couple more questions on Slido. So let me throw these at you and see what you think around this. One of the questions actually is on a similar topic around the openness of data and privacy. And is there a line that we shouldn't cross? It's a little bit left field. Gibson, do you have an answer for us on there? A short one.
That's a tricky one, right? Yes and no. It all depends on how you are going to share it. So first, you need to understand what kind of data is shareable, if I can call it like this, or what kind of data we can share. So first, understanding, what is personal identifiable information, personal sensitive information as well, because there is a difference between those two, right? So what kind of data I can share, and if it's something that I need to share, how I'll be able to share without giving the name or the information about my customers. So it's a tricky one, but it's about understanding the data, understanding the kind, how you're going to manage and deal with that data that you hold, and then making sure that if it's something that you have to share, either you're sharing statistics only, or that if something that you really have to share, is it really shareable or not? But there's a bit of common sense there as well, in the understanding of the data.
I think there was a really good example that I saw recently was with the Fitbit Strava, the running app. I don't know, let's maybe see a quick show of hands. Anyone using wearables? Anyone tracking their activities and locations? Yeah, a few people. So, it was with Strava that it was military personnel were going on runs and then uploading their data onto Strava so people could see where all the military guys were running around. And which, yeah, I think that was probably a good example of a line not to cross.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have another question, or anyone else want to chip in on the privacy issue? Nothing really more on there. Let's ask. One more question has come in from Mr. or Miss Anonymous. What role of current traditional banks do you see in the future with CBDCs, P2P payments, etc.?
It's a good question.
Good question.
Yeah, with CBDCs, I think, the commercial banks, so first of all, they're like not one kind of money. So there's central bank money, commercial bank money, electronic money. There are a lot of kind of money, which are literally the same for the user, but technically, or what it is, it's not the same. So I think still the banks will be, providing the onboarding services, because I am doubting that central banks will go for CBDC to do the onboarding of the publicity on. Of course, there's this monetary policy that has to comply. So the central banks cannot introduce the money without the commercial banks. And in the experimental project that we did, the workflow was so it's basically you had to have a commercial bank which is asking for CBDC and then basically serving the end customer. I think the role will be still there, but it will be totally transformed. And that transformation is similar to telecom industry, which is basically, it's like 10 years ago, we were paying for SMSs, we were paying for lots of things. And now it is basically like paying for data. And that's it. And they're looking forward to new, business models like additional value propositions.
And I think you're sort of bringing the whole session together beautifully with the word innovation.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that all of you have been touching here. That this constant innovation that's coming from businesses.
Stay at the table.
Staying at the table, and being driven by fintechs.
Yeah.
And then we've also talked about the roles of other partners in the ecosystem. But again, I think this is sort of a nice way of looking at the whole future of open economy, of social inclusion. That's really driven by fintechs and private sector companies in doing that. As a quick sort of wrap up, then we've covered sort of how this innovation is shaping us, until now and going forward. We've talked a bit about behavioral change. We have looked a lot around a bit around gamification there as well. We've talked about responsibility, this interplay, a lot of talk about collaboration and partnerships, which has been really good. We've got a topic for the next session, which is also nice, and some great views on the future. So I think all I can do is say thank you very, very much to Andrius from Superhow, to Rūta from FoxPay, to Steve from Ondato, and to Gibson from Sensedia join us online. Thank you all to the audience for being here and your attendance. Thank you.
Thank you very much.